For most of the 20th century, Sweden was shorthand for a society that had figured it all out, a place where you were covered from birth to death, with free education, universal healthcare, and generous pensions. Backed by booming industrial might and massive global exports, along with a few very famous pop stars, the country projected an image of absolute prosperity and order. Politicians across Europe and America pointed to the country as living proof of a specific idea, that a government could impose high taxes and massive state intervention while remaining deeply humane and economically competitive. This Swedish model became the ultimate political aspiration for the global left. But the reality today is a significant departure from that 20th century ideal. This chart shows total public social spending as a percentage of GDP. Today, Sweden sits at 24%. That puts them at the same level as the United States, and well below neighbors like France and Italy. Private equity firms now own Swedish hospitals. For-profit school operators raise capital on the stock exchange, and pension funds are invested in global markets. At the very top, wealth is heavily concentrated. Sweden boasts 43 billionaires. Per capita, that is double the rate of the United States. The country has integrated market competition into the core of its public life, creating an energetic economy that looks nothing like its social democratic past. To understand why, we have to look at the crisis that started it all. In the early 1990s, a massive real estate bubble burst. A severe banking crisis followed, leaving the Swedish government owning several of the country's largest banks almost overnight. This graph tracks the human cost of that crash. Unemployment shot upward from 2 to nearly 10%. The crisis exposed a structural failure. The state had grown so large and taxes so high, the economy stopped generating enough growth to sustain the system. Out of that wreckage came a remarkable cross-party consensus. Politicians across the spectrum agreed the old model was broken. Radical market intervention was their only way out. Over the next 3 decades, Sweden cut taxes and opened public services to private competition. These reforms moved into the very things that define the social contract: the public school system, state-funded hospitals, and care for the elderly. Take healthcare. Today, nearly half of all primary care clinics are privately owned. At places like St. Jorans Hospital in Stockholm, private equity operators use artificial intelligence to read mammograms and monitor vitals in real time. Education followed the same path. In 1992, the country introduced a massive school voucher system. Parents could direct public funding to any school they chose, turning the education budget into a free market for private operators. The logic was that market competition drives efficiency, and consumer choice drives quality. The government's role shifted from providing the service to being the regulator and funder. This pivot brought massive economic upside. Today, Stockholm produces more billion-dollar tech unicorns per capita than any city in the world outside of Silicon Valley. In the mid-2000s, Sweden abolished its wealth and inheritance taxes. That made it financially rational for successful founders and investors to keep their money in the country, funding the next round of companies instead of relocating. Economists call this the floor and ceiling model. The remaining welfare state acts as a safety net, a floor, meaning a young Swede can build a startup without gambling their family's health. Meanwhile, low taxes create unlimited upside above them. By combining a basic security net with high financial rewards for success, Sweden created a unique environment for entrepreneurial risk. But these reforms carry steep societal costs. The new system tracks socioeconomic geography with precision, creating distinct winners and losers. Research shows that privileged students often use the school voucher system to migrate to elite private academies. Disadvantaged students, meanwhile, are increasingly concentrated in under-resourced public schools. A 2-tier healthcare system is also hardening. Around 800,000 Swedes now hold private health insurance, mostly to jump the queues in the public system, drawing medical staff away from those who cannot afford to pay. Most alarming are reports from authorities that organized criminal gangs have infiltrated some privately run, tax-funded welfare services, siphoning profits out of the state budget. These outcomes suggest that when private profit becomes a primary driver of public welfare, the incentives for fraud and social stratification become difficult to manage. Modern Sweden is caught between 2 contradictory realities. On one hand, it possesses world-class AI hospitals, booming startups, and strong economic growth. On the other, it faces segregated schools and unreliable elder care. The floor and ceiling both still exist, but the floor is lower than it used to be, while the ceiling has lifted significantly higher for a select few. Sweden proves that a nation can successfully shrink its state and boost its dynamism. But its experiment leaves every developed society with an uncomfortable question. Exactly how much human inequality are we willing to accept as the price of that growth?